Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe Show. And we're here on Cup semi-final first leg week. Jack, how are you doing?
Oh my gosh. My nose is dripping because I've just come
Oh,
from a well, the weather is so cold, but I did come from a Green King pub just now. So, Joe,
yeah.
talking of Green King pubs, do we want to
I mean,
give a shout out to
a
our sponsors?
perfect segue. Yeah, a perfect segue, Jack. And we've got a big few weeks coming up for Fulham with 3 games on the box, both of the semi-finals, as we just mentioned, both legs against Liverpool and obviously the SW6 derby on Saturday against Chelsea. They're all going to be in demand. They're also hard to get to, for example, the Liverpool game. So if you can't make it, why not go and watch it at your local Green King Sports pub? You can still download the Green King Sports app to receive 10% off every single drink, I should say, whenever there's a game on. Also, fully appreciate that it's dry January. They have a great range of low or no alcohol options as well. So a word from our sponsors, and thank you once again to Green King Sport for all the support this season. Jack, I can hear you sniffling. You can hear I've got a little bit of a cold, and I think it's quite simply due to cup fever. Because get me to Anfield, mate. I'm honestly, I'm absolutely buzzing for this. At the time of filming, we haven't had the FA Cup fourth round draw just yet. We are obviously through. This is the thing, Jack. We watched, and you watched live in person yesterday, Liverpool at Arsenal.
Yes.
They were without their best player in Mo Salah. They were also without, arguably, their next most important player in Virgil van Dijk, arguably. He's ill. We don't know if he's going to be back for the first leg. What did you make of how they played? And we'll touch on Liverpool first, then we'll touch on Fulham and what happened against Rotherham. But in terms of Liverpool, before we get into this, what are your feelings going into this game? Because obviously we're going to Anfield. It's going to be very, very tough. But there are huge positives to take going into it in terms of ways to get at this Liverpool team and ways to make this a very, very famous season for Fulham.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a chance. There's definitely a chance we can get something from the game. Excuse me. Well, from at least from the away leg and the overall semi-final tie. Liverpool yesterday were interesting because Arsenal were pretty much all over in the first half, and I think there was one breakaway that I remember Liverpool having, and they hit the crossbar through Trent Alexander-Arnold. But in the second half, the way Liverpool changed it up and they changed their system a little bit, they brought Trent into the midfield, they moved Nunez, Gakpo, and got Diaz, and they brought on Jota as well. For Gakpo, so there was plenty of movement in that front three, and they bullied Arsenal, and they actually ran them a little bit ragged in that second half. And the own goal from Kiowa was obviously unfortunate, but from there I thought that they were good value for the win, and Diaz finishing off in the last minute in front of a very good away turnout from Liverpool. I thought it was a really good afternoon for them. And I was thinking to myself, well, that was pretty impressive what they've just done. But hopefully that's as good as it gets for them this week, because they've got the mighty Fulham coming to town in just a few days. I do think there is an advantage for us, given that we've had a couple of days more to rest, and we didn't really get out of second gear against Rotherham, and Liverpool had to give it all guns blazing against the Gunners because of the actual opposition they had. I do think there's an opportunity here for Fulham. Marco spoke today about game management and how we have to really manage these next 2 games. He said that if he had his choice, he would have it as a one-off game at the Craven Cottage. But if it was a one-off game at Anfield, he would have wanted 2 legs. And of course, it is 2 legs. I believe that Fulham will go there and try and frustrate Liverpool. And we have to basically bring everything to our advantage back to the Craven Cottage, make sure we're still in the tie, make sure we've got a chance of reaching Wembley by the time we hit the 24th of January. And I think there is something to be said here that both ties are in favour of us in terms of resting time, because they've got to play Bournemouth on the 21st. And they obviously played yesterday. So we're going to have, from the Chelsea game, 11 days to sort of sit on the Chelsea game and then prepare for the Liverpool second leg. And I just hope to God that we're in a position where we can get something from that game going into that second leg, because that resting time will be massive for us. Whereas Liverpool have got to go to Bournemouth and get a result because they're trying to maintain top position in the Premier League. It really does suit us to have a very cup-filled month where we have we have Chelsea away and we have Everton at home, but we're in a position right now where we're not really looking over our shoulders. We have to fully focus on the cup, and then whatever brings us tonight in the FA Cup as well. I'm feeling pretty excited. Obviously, when I was someone asked me earlier to name a team that I would play, and we'll get onto it for the Liverpool game. The lack of a Iwobi did worry me. It was at that point I realised we're going to miss Alex Iwobi quite a lot, Joe. And I think it's now, given, I suppose you watched the Arsenal game yesterday. What did you take away from that game, and what kind of conclusion did you come to with the way Liverpool played and the way they might set up against us?
Well, firstly, I came to the conclusion that their squad depth at the moment is not up to their usual standards. You saw that with the double sub that Klopp had to make just before they went 1-0 up, actually, when they had to bring on the two youngsters who, don't get me wrong, did very, very well. That's no detriment to them as professionals. It's more just that when you think about Liverpool bringing on players late in the game, a double sub, I should say, to sob story, to like change the game in their favour, you think of bringing on the likes of maybe Cody Gakpo, for example. You don't think of bringing on a young right back, for example. I think that the way that we have to approach this game is to not play into their hands. What would be playing into their hands? Going all guns blazing. The way they counter-attack is where they have their biggest threat, and we saw that with the second goal last night. They are scintillating on the break at the moment. We have to come with a quite defensive mindset and play on the counter-attack. I think that's where we play our best football. I think that, not saying we approached the Arsenal game negatively, but that showed it perfectly. Where we had our biggest joy was with our counter-attacks, the balls over the top of the fullbacks. That's really where we can get at them. I think that their midfield is not looking too scary. I don't want to jinx anything, touch wood, but I don't think it's looking terrifying as it could. And I really think that we have an advantage there. And it's just about staying in the game. You're completely right about Noah Iwobi. Can add to that no Bassi, but ultimately I would rather that than be playing Liverpool with Iwobi, with Salah, 100%, because I think he can just turn the game on his head. They obviously have other players that can do that, but not to the degree that Salah can. He can win a game on his own, 100%. So at Craven Cottage, I think we can beat anyone. We showed that against Arsenal. And, you know, if we can just get back to the home leg with something to play for, happy days. I think with the aim for this, if we're looking at ideal scenario is obviously win both legs. But a more realistic ideal scenario is get back to Craven Cottage with the scores level.
Draw.
That's the aim. Get back to the scores level. If you can't manage that, a 1-goal deficit, you know, it's not the end of the world. Will I be feeling confident? No. I won't lie to you. No, I won't. If we're behind, I won't feel confident. But if we can get back level playing field, one-off game at Craven Cottage, I back us.
We could win.
100%.
We could win at Anfield. We could win.
There's no reason why not, because we've, other than the level of the squad for both teams, absolutely everything else is in our favour. The way that the legs have fallen in terms of us being at home second leg, that's an advantage, 100%. The way they've both fallen in terms of rest before each leg has fallen in our favour as well. The fact that they're without their best player has fallen. Their captain is ill. You know, it's fallen for us as long as he's still ill. I mean, Virgil, it's after Christmas. You know, take a few weeks, mate. You know, really recover and make sure you're back there for the next round of the Europa League. Okay, Jack. So we played against Rotherham on Friday night, and we haven't really spoken about that. The reason we haven't spoken about that is I feel like it was a bit of a non-event.
It was the most non-event I've ever seen.
And I mean this with no disrespect to Rotherham. I thought defended reasonably well. We made 8 changes. They didn't really give it a go. We got through easily. I don't think 1-0 represents the game. I think maybe 3 would have been fair, if not 2. I don't think our finishing was great. Anything you can take from that game into this one? The only thing that I can take from it is I didn't think there were any players that aren't starting games that showed us why they should be involved. I thought it was pretty poor from the likes of Lukic, to throw a name out there. The strikers, don't even get me started. I almost want to breeze past this, Jack, and get into our teams and predictions for the game, because it was such a non-event. I think it showed that Jimenez, compared to our other strikers, is chalk and cheese.
Well, I'll tell you who is playing well at the moment.
Go on.
Bobby D. Cordova-Reid.
And it was a great goal. It was a
Great
fantastic
goal.
finish. Yeah,
I'm
fantastic finish.
I'm loving Bobby at the moment, and I think that's probably the way we need to go against Liverpool to segue into it. You know,
Give me your team, Jack. What do you think? Because
someone asked
let's
for
think of it. It's not a one-off game. So let's not give our teams to the second leg, but let's just say if we're both in agreement that we're going there to try and frustrate Liverpool and get through to the home leg with something to play for, how are you doing that?
So 5 at the back out of possession.
Yeah.
But on paper 4. So
Yeah.
Leno, Robinson, Tosin, Diop. I think Castagna will start because Tete played 90 and they brought off Castagna, so that's obviously a factor. Paulinho, Reed, Pereira. I know Kearney could play, but I'm not sure. I would be more conservative with going for Reed. And then talking of Reed, Bobby D. Cordova-Reid on the right, Willian on the left. I said Pereira already. So out front is Raul Jimenez, Willian off the bench. Bobby then slots into right back, out of possession. We play basically a back 4 / so he's the covering man, basically. It's not like we're always going to be a back 5. It's when we're under the cosh, we go into a 5, and Castagna sort of takes up a more central role with the predominant Tosin and Diop being as our centre backs. That's how I'd go with it for Anfield. I just think we need to be more conservative. Bobby Reed brings that sort of defensive assurance, and then if we have to play for it at the Cottage, then that's when I'd bring in Harry Wilson to start over Bobby. What about you?
Yeah. I think I agree. I think it's basically the team that played against Arsenal with the enforced changes being no Iwobi, so Pereira comes in, no Bassi, so Diop comes in. And then in terms of the midfield, slight more security in Harrison Reed starting over TC. And I think that's the way to play this. I would be happy if Tete started. I'd be happy if Castagna started. To be honest, I'm not too fussed there. There's been a suggestion that Ream could be back in the squad for the game. I don't think he will start. I think hopefully back on the bench. Which is good to see him as another option back, especially now that we've lost Bassi, who's obviously the only other natural left-footed centre back that we've got. I agree with Wilson being an option off the bench. I love the way we set up against Arsenal with Bobby dropping back in the right wing back position. I completely agree with you. And I think this is all about let's keep it tight early doors. A lot gets said about the Anfield atmosphere in terms of it being a myth. I do think for a semi-final like this, I do think there will be, I'm expecting an atmosphere. I'm expecting it to be reasonably hostile. That's what I'm expecting. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm expecting a great atmosphere from the Fulham fans as well. We think we're bringing around 3,000, perhaps just under. And it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful occasion. And to anyone going, I'm sure we'll have a fantastic time regardless of the result and what an occasion it's going to be. And in terms of score prediction, Jack, I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I think that we are going to give absolutely everything in this game. And I think we're going to get a result to take back to the Cottage. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, which I would take all day long and twice on a Sunday, 100%.
Yeah, 1-1 was what I was thinking. I think 1-1 would be reasonable, and I think that would be the mark of a very disciplined performance.
Yeah.
The worst thing that could happen is getting a red card or someone losing their head on the touchline or in the 11. I did have a scenario that came into my head earlier that Liverpool were going to be 2-0 up with about 5 minutes to go, and we get a goal back, and suddenly it's game on. Not only in the game,
that's momentum to take into the home leg. 100%.
So I do think that is a possibility. I think we will get a goal, and if we don't get a goal, I think it will be a 0-0 draw.
Okay.
I really feel like we're going to get something. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a 3-0, 4-0 Liverpool job. Doesn't feel like it could be out the tie after one.
It's the hope that kills you, Jack. But ultimately, we've got a very good team, and if we play like we did against Arsenal, then we could be winning this game. Like I honestly do feel that strongly about it. Like if we play like that, and we can, and we limit Liverpool to the opportunities that Arsenal had or didn't have, we should say. Like I want to use an example here. Like after we went 2-1 up against Arsenal, I remember the Saka shot that he ballooned over the bar. I remember the Odegaard free kick, and other than that, I can't remember an effort from them. In terms of an effort on goal.
The tackle was a good tackle, but
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
Like in terms
achieved.
of an effort that reached Leno's goal, there wasn't anything.
The ball
And
that came across the box, and I think Gabriel almost got the end of it. That was dangerous. Apart
it
from
was
that,
dangerous, but he didn't get on the end of it. And I know what you mean. Like I know what you're saying, but I mean the opportunity to reduce them to
yeah,
nearly getting on the end of something. It
yeah,
shows that was them throwing us under the cosh. It wasn't even an effort on goal. If we can defend like that, and we can do it. We did it in early December in terms of reducing them to efforts from distance, and if we can
yeah.
play it there, I saw a great point mentioned. That day I don't think Polinia played very well by his standards.
Right.
Like in terms, he made a few mistakes playing out from the back. He lost possession for their, I can't remember if it's a third or fourth goal. A little bit rash outside the box. By his standards, he wasn't actually great that day. And I'm only saying that because his standards are so high. If we could have a typical Polinia performance, like he was against Arsenal, for example, then I think that cuts out the mistakes even more and we win at Anfield that day. I think we see out the game better. I really hope we've learned from that Anfield game. It seemed like we did against Arsenal.
And that is a good point, that we've got that top 6 scout going into this game, so we have the mentality to get a result, albeit being the first leg. But if we were to go to Anfield and get a draw, or even, God forbid, a win, which would be amazing, we have that in our locker to do it. And it is worth mentioning that it was announced earlier today, there is no VAR. And I was discussing this with Joe earlier in the pub, other Joe. Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I've got to admit, I'm not sure about this one. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. The reason I'm not sure about this, and I know I was literally moaning about Chris Kavanagh being on VAR last week, so it's very, very ironic. Would anything make this miserable guy happy? Probably not. But at the same time, if we had no VAR at Anfield in December, we go in at half time 2-1 down when we scored a completely legal second goal from Tete, which was miles onside and was chalked off. Yeah. The reason it makes me nervous at a place like Anfield is because home advantage. Simple as that. And might we get it the other way around in the second leg potentially? But I would rather.
It's not as intense, is it?
No, and I'd rather have VAR. But at the same time, I'm saying that, and we had VAR at Anfield last week for the Newcastle game, and they gave 2 of the softest penalties I've ever seen in favour of Liverpool. So I'd probably be moaning either way at this point. And if we can't have it in the Middlesbrough game, then we can't have it at Anfield. It's only fair.
There will be something that either fan base or one of the fan bases at least will have their knickers in a twist over it. It will be controversial. There will be controversial moments because football without VAR is almost like football without its comfort blanket. It's without its sort of, but even though it's unreliable, it is sort of a reliability. Every time we concede a goal, I'm thinking, well, that's going to get checked because everything gets checked these days. So you just never know.
Like the reason I want it now is for the offside, and the reason I want it for the offside is because of what happened at Anfield last time, and that's playing in my mind. It's not the same official, I don't think. It's it's not the same match, it's not the same team. But it's the flag's meant to go up if you're 100% sure. That grates on me a little bit because he can't have been 100% sure because he was miles onside.
If Liverpool score and we come out of the game and we see the replay and we see that he was offside or there was a handball in the build-up, our heads are going to be on a different sort of universe.
My head will be in an intergalactic dimension that hasn't yet been discovered, mate. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. But at least it's 2 legs. It's 2 legs to right the wrongs of the previous leg. Joe, we're fairly confident that we can at least go there and get something.
We have to be, We have to be, and this is a famous week for Fulham. Regardless of the results that happen, this is famous. We're in a semi-final, and then we've got the SW6 derby on Saturday. Other than last year, this is our best chance to beat Chelsea at the Bridge in our lifetimes. Aside from last year, in our lifetimes, isn't it? I mean, I was more confident last year just because we were doing better away from home.
Sure. We've only won one away game this season, and that was at Everton in the league.
And how did we win that?
So our away form isn't very good, and I didn't even realise that until the other day.
Yeah.
Our away form's terrible at the moment.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. All eyes on the draw tonight for the Cup, FA Cup. All eyes on the first leg of the Middlesbrough-Chelsea game. Come on, Borough. Let's see what you've
Yes.
got.
Come
First
on,
leg,
go.
obviously, at the Riverside. Interesting to see what happens there. And Jack, obviously, will be speaking again, I'm sure, before the Chelsea game.
Yeah,
To
you'd imagine.
review Liverpool as well.
Dare
what
I say,
unfolds at
if
Anfield.
we beat Liverpool, you may see us in a live capacity.
I think you definitely will.
Yeah.
I was thinking earlier, and I know that I just complain about everything at this point, but weirdly, I think I'd be so much more nervous for the second leg
Yeah,
if we were to win the first leg.
definitely.
I think it would be the scenarios about going to the final would be playing in my mind a whole lot more. Maybe this is obvious because obviously we've almost got 1 foot there.
Yeah.
If we're behind, there's almost no expectations. I don't want that to happen.
No.
If we draw, it's level playing field. But if we're ahead, it's ours to lose.
Yeah, and I think that was where I lost my head at United a lot last season because at
That's it.
1-0, I just assumed we were going to Wembley. The way we were playing, I just did
Yeah.
not foresee that situation happening.
No.
And it did, and the tears started rolling down my face, and everyone else's as well. That was proper head loss on and off the pitch from Fulham. Joe, I'm really pleased that we're in this sort of mindset going into such a huge game.
Yeah.
I really feel like, and I will see you up there, and I cannot wait to do that.
Yeah.
I really feel like we're in a good place, and
Yeah.
whatever will be. Hopefully, we are going to Wembley. Que sera, sera.
And we've got another chance because we're still in the hat for the other competition.
The other one.
Let's see what can happen. If you're making your way up to the game, let us know. If you're not, let us know where you're watching it. It'd be great to see some of you up there. We're a bit undecided, I think, Jack, about where we're going pre-match. Potentially the world famous Arkles. We're not sure.
We're hearing
it's technically a home pub, but
well, to be fair, I spoke to the barman when we played Everton, and he's pretty happy with home and aways mixing, barring one team, and that is Chelsea. He said that the Chelsea fans were really disrespectful when they came to the Arkles. Of course,
what
we
a surprise!
Are not Chelsea. Oh yeah, God. Joe, we'll see you up there in Liverpool, and well, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks everyone for watching. Enjoy the Liverpool game wherever you're watching, and we'll speak to you on, potentially a live stream before Chelsea, if not on a normal Jack and Joe show to review what happened in the first leg.
Yes, I remember, of course, we reacted to the draw where we got Liverpool and we were less than pleased. But wouldn't it be nice if we were discussing pre-Chelsea that we were still in the tie against Liverpool going into the Craven Cottage leg? Of course, it's the first time that Marco Silva has taken charge of Fulham in a two-legged scenario. In the previous 3 times we've been in a two-legged scenario, we've beaten Cardiff over 2, we've beaten Derby over 2, but we lost to Reading in quite controversial circumstances over 2. And of course, we have the Europa League. We beat Hamburg over 2, Wolfsburg over 2, Shakhtar Donetsk over 2, Juventus over 2. I mean, that is a good record. So
Great record.
And of course, who were we going to be playing in the final if they had beaten Atletico Madrid? Liverpool. And that is full circle. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you up at Anfield. Don't lose your heads. It's only 1 leg, but let's stay in the tie. Thanks so much for watching. And for goodness sake, come on, Fulham.